Welcome everyone to my ultimate stealth build character creation guide to Fallout 4. Hello, my name is Macsen. During the course of this video I'm going to be discussing the special points and the perks that you should invest in if you want to create a very good stealth build, or indeed an ultimate stealth build. And I'll be showing a stealth build of my own as well. I should also mention that this is a very spoiler light guide, and all of my guides will be unless I otherwise say so. So I'm not going to be mentioning where you can find certain bobbleheads or items or whatever. Basically I'm going to keep spoilers to a minimum, so if you're the type that doesn't want to know spoilers, these guides should be very good for you. So if there's one thing you definitely need to know about when playing as a stealth build, that's how to sneak and how sneaking exactly works. Now in this video I'm not going to go through all of the basics of sneaking, but I will mention the strengths of playing a stealth build. So there are two main benefits to sneaking within Fallout 4. The first of those is that while you remain undetected, you can't basically take damage unless you're unlucky enough to be affected by a landmine, for example, or a stray explosion. Opponents won't be able to target you and won't be able to shoot at you if you remain undetected, basically, while you are successfully sneaking. So this makes your character much more durable. So you may want to forego on certain perks, like the endurance perks, the extra health from endurance, if you do play a very sneaky type of character. Also, the benefits to being able to choose the engagements that you get yourself into are very useful to you as well. Because you can basically avoid detection, you can get into situations where you can take opponents on in one-on-one engagements much more often. And anyone who's read Sun Tzu will know about choosing your own battlefield, so to speak. So that's a very useful ability with sneaking as well. And the second ability to sneak in that's very useful is the ability to perform sneak attacks while you are sneaking. Now sneak attacks basically allow you to do twice as much damage to opponents if you are able to attack them when hidden or in caution mode while sneaking, and doing twice as much damage with that initial attack or attacks when sneaking is very, very valuable to you, especially on the harder difficulty levels where enemies take a lot more damage and also you actually dish out less damage. So this is a way that you can get around the damage multipliers on harder difficulties like survival mode. On survival mode I believe you do half as much damage and opponents take twice as much damage. So doing extra damage via sneak attacks is a way to get around that, and it's very useful. And you can actually increase the level of damage you do with your sneak attacks as well via perks, which I'll be talking about much later on. There's a variety of ways that your character can actually be detected while sneaking as well. So there's light level, line of sight, movement, sound and armor, but there's ways that you can reduce the likelihood of being detected, and many perks actually allow you to gain more advantages in these areas, which I'll be discussing later on as well. So there's only actually 4 different perks within the perk poster that directly affect your sneak or stealth ability. The first and most important one of these is sneak, obviously. So this basically allows you to have a greater chance of remaining undetected the more ranks of this perk you have. Later ranks also add additional abilities like the ability to no longer trigger floor-based traps or enemy mines. At the 4th level you actually gain the ability to run while sneaking, or at least not be adversely affected by running when sneaking. Normally if you don't have that perk you'll probably be detected pretty easily if you start running while in sneak mode. And the last rank of the perk allows you to lose distant enemies when engaging in stealth. So all in all, this is a key perk for any stealth build, and one you'll probably need the most. Definitely need the most. The second, in my opinion, most important stealth perk is Ninja. So basically this allows you to do extra damage via your sneak attacks. Normally you do 2 times damage, but with the initial rank you can do 2.5 times damage for normal damage attacks, but 4 times as much damage for melee sneak attacks. And by the 3rd rank of Ninja at level 33 you can access that. You do 3.5 times normal damage, but if you do melee sneak attacks you do 10 times normal damage. So that's an absolutely massive multipliers there. So using this on survival difficulty you can basically get round all of the modifiers that you normally suffer when playing at that difficulty level if you're able to do those type of attacks. So Ninja's very, very powerful, arguably an overpowered perk in my opinion. The next perk is the Mr. Sandman perk. So basically this does extra damage with silenced weapons. So for example, weapons that have a suppressor on them, if you have a certain mod on a certain weapon. Also it allows you to instantly kill sleeping people. So that's a very useful ability as well. The future ranks just do extra sneaker damage. So probably the initial rank is the most important one there. Not every stealth build will actually want this. It's probably more useful for characters that get a bit more closer up to opponents rather than sniper type builds for stealth builds. But certainly one that you should definitely think about investing in for any stealth build. And the last of the actual perks that affect sneaking in one way or another is Night Person. This is the only perk that isn't in the agility part of the poster that affects stealth. The initial rank doesn't affect stealth, but the second rank at level 25 gives you night vision. So if I tab out here, you can see this is the normal night sky when we're not in stealth mode. And if I re-enter stealth mode here, you can see that the sky actually lightens up. So that's a very useful ability. Not everyone will want this ability though, but I certainly like it. It's a very good perk Night Person is. It will mean that you have to invest a certain amount of perception, which not everyone will want to do though. Yeah, I'm certainly going to be doing that with the build I'm going to be showing later on though. I should also mention agility. This is the only of the special stats that affects sneak in any way, shape or form. You can see after the VATS bit there, it mentions and your ability to sneak. So I believe every single point invested in agility probably gives you a small percentage chance to remain in undetected basically. It's not an easy way to test this out, and I'm not sure if anyone has done so or at least made their information available on the internet yet. But you definitely want to invest into agility, especially since many of these perks are actually found within agility as well. You probably wouldn't want a stealth build that doesn't have at least an agility level of 7 in my opinion, because you want to get ninja perk. But investing beyond that, it kind of depends. Since there are only 4 stealth related perks within the game, you actually have a lot of leeway where to invest your special points. If you're creating a stealth build, you only need 7 points invested to get all of the agility perks, and an extra 6 points into perception to get the Night Person perk. So that's 13 special points, leaving you with 15 points to spend elsewhere on the perk poster for the initial 28. And of course you can get bobbleheads and a special book, that's an extra 8 special points. So in effect you've got an extra 25 points to spend or think about spending before investing any of your levels into extra special points. I've actually created a character build and I'm going to discuss that now, where you may want to consider investing your other special points and the other perks that you may want to consider picking up when creating your stealth build. So this is my initial character build after having completed the Vault-Tec registration forms. And these are the special stats that my character build will have after having found all of the special related bobbleheads and of course the special book within the game. So this character now has 36 special points when the character starts with 28. Now I've invested in each and every special stat for a reason, a certain amount, which I'm going to detail shortly. You may actually want to take a different path with your own stealth builds though. There are certain perks that are very useful which I won't be able to pick up with these special stats. I'll mention reasons why you might want to pick something else and the downsides and upsides of doing so a bit later on. So let's start off by discussing agility, the most important special stat of course when it comes to creating a stealth build. With this character build I've actually invested 9 points into agility. We can pick up the bobblehead later on to make it 10, which will give us access to all of the agility perks. Now also investing in agility is very important because you gain an ability to your sneak with each and every point, and we're going to want at least 7 points because of the ninja perk. So I would probably never invest less than 7, or at least less than 7 including bauble heads. The remaining perks within the agility column are questionable use though, in my opinion, for many stealth builds. Quick Hand is useful for many stealth builds, allowing you to reload a bit quicker, but the second rank is VATS only, and the remaining 2 perks within the agility column are VATS only as well, one of them being melee only and one of them being for guns. Now VATS itself for stealth builds arguably isn't all that useful, or at least not as useful for as many builds would be. VATS is probably best used against quick moving targets and at close range. That's when you can get the highest percentage bonus to hit them. And also if you were to try to attack a quick moving target that's near to you normally, you'd probably miss a lot. It's better for more frequent attacking weapons like automatic weapons, and melee weapons are actually quite useful in VATS as well. So maybe for melee type stealth builds it's pretty good VATS, but for longer range weapons like long range hunting rifles, or even scoped weapons like long range rifles or pistols, arguably VATS isn't going to be so useful. You'll often find yourself being able to initially start combat with a stealth build anyway, and actually pick your targets, so VATS isn't going to be all that useful for longer range stealth builds in my opinion. This character build I've created here mainly focuses on longer range weapons, although having said that it's kind of a mix between the two. I'll mention why a bit later on, but I'll mention what other special stats you could pick on perks you could pick for other types of stealth builds also. If for example you want to forego the last 2 or 3 perks in the agility column, you can use those special perks elsewhere, and that's a pretty good idea in many circumstances. So moving on to the next special I want to discuss, that's luck. And luck is mainly to do with VATS of course, so I haven't invested many points into this at all. In fact I've only invested 1. You have to actually start with 1 point of course. If we pick up the bauble head though, we can actually get to Bloody Mess, which is the main reason why I invested a point into luck with this character build. So Bloody Mess basically gives extra damage, so it's very useful, that is. The more damage you're doing, the better basically. This character build actually really focuses on causing massive amounts of damage. It's definitely a character build that would do very well on survival difficulty. That's kind of the main theme behind it. So moving on to intelligence next. Now I actually wanted to invest quite highly into intelligence because of the many modding perks found within the intelligence perk column. So perks like Gun Nut and also Science allow you to modify your weapon significantly, so your weapons do yet more damage. Also Scrapper will come in handy to find certain components that allow you to mod those weapons. Even a perk like Chemist actually allows you to modify things like grenades and mines, which isn't really so important with a stealth build since they cause a lot of noise, but on occasion you will want to use those occasionally. Also, having an extra point in intelligence won't do your character any harm when leveling up. Leveling up is something I should definitely mention with this character. This character won't level up as quick as some characters will, but having a intelligence level of 7 eventually, and also because I'm going to pick the Night Person perk, we can actually gain an intelligence of 10 with both of those combined once we've got the ranks we need. So your character will level up actually pretty quickly, but there are ways to level up quicker. You could invest more highly in intelligence, find some points from some other area to get extra points here. Arguably the perks beyond Chemist or even Chemist itself aren't so important though for this character build. So you may not want to do that. Kind of depends how important leveling up is to you, how quickly you want to level up. If you really want to level up very quickly as well, you probably want to pick up Idiot Savant. Idiot Savant is useful in all circumstances, but it's best useful or most useful for very low intelligence characters or very high intelligence characters. So level intelligence of 10 or 11 or more characters, or level 1 basically characters, 1 or 2 are probably the best. That's when Idiot Savant comes into its own the most. but we don't really want to focus on VATS too much with this character, so that's why I haven't picked it up. But yeah, some people may want to pick up Idiot Savant or invest more highly in intelligence with their stealth builds. Charisma is one of the least useful special stats when it comes to stealth builds, and in fact my character build here actually started off with a charisma level of 1 before investing points with a special book and actually later on getting the bobblehead. The reason why I would maybe do that is to pick up the Lone Wanderer perk. The Lone Wanderer perk could be very good for stealth characters because companions can often get in the way when it comes to sneaking around. They can cause issues occasionally where you are detected or they are detected, so you may actually want to pick this perk up at some point. The perk actually allows you to do more damage when you're on your own and also gives you extra carry weight, so it's very useful if you decide to actually be a lone wanderer. There are big downsides though in not having companions along with you in it. Basically, companions give you certain perks if you meet certain requirements. So you may want to keep companions around until you've picked up those perks. Some of them are very useful. And also companions are pretty good in combat as well. They don't suffer from the difficulty level like you do, so they actually do damage at normal rates rather than being reduced at higher levels. So that's the reason why you may want to keep companions around. Other perks within the charisma tree that are maybe of use: Black Widow. For female characters is probably more useful than the male equivalent because there are probably more men in the game, so that's the way you can do extra damage. You're not going to be able to benefit from the intimidation perk, which is at level 10 now. Stealth builds, I don't think any stealth build would want this in any circumstance really. There's not much point in picking that up. So probably the highest I would ever consider investing in charisma is maybe up to local leader. A lot of people like local leader. If you're a big fan on settlements, you may want to maybe move some special points over from somewhere else to pick up that perk, or even invest in special points rather than perk points to pick that up later on. So that's probably about as high as I'd go maybe with the charisma perks, maybe up to party girl, party boy in certain circumstances. There are various character builds that you could use with Party Boy, Party Girl, which I intend to do build videos for in future, which I'm not going to mention too much about that now, but yeah, that's Charisma. Endurance is also another special stat that isn't all that useful for stealth builds, but I've actually invested a point into it initially with this character build, so I had started off with 2, and with the bobblehead it would take it up to level 3. That will give you access to Life Giver, which gives you extra health, and the ability to regenerate lost health, which is pretty useful, so you may want to consider that. The perks beyond that though are of questionable use really for a stealth build, because in theory you shouldn't be detected all that often and be able to choose the combat you get yourself into. You just don't need the ability to heal yourself or basically survive combat so much. Basically you should be able to choose the combat you get in, so not get into too much trouble in most circumstances. One perk I should definitely mention in the endurance column though, which may be very useful to you, is at level 1, and that's toughness. So basically toughness just gives you extra damage resistance. Now this is important potentially with a stealth build because the armor weight that you're carrying actually affects your ability to remain undetected. The more armor you wear, the higher your chance of detection. So you actually probably don't want to wear all that much armor. So one way of getting around not wearing much armor is by increasing your level of damage resistance via toughness. That's a way that you can make your character much more durable. So that's certainly something to consider with stealth builds. Perception actually increases your accuracy in VATS. Now if you're creating a character that doesn't use VATS very often, arguably it isn't so useful, but having said that, for many stealth characters many of the perks within the perception column are very useful. Probably the most useful in my opinion is Night Person, since it's a sneak related perk, at least the second rank if it is, so you gain night vision with that. Also the big increase to intelligence and perception at night is very useful as well. So it is kind of a micromanagement type of perk. You'll definitely want to rest more often, so it's at night time when you're actually playing with your character. You may want to mod at night and also to build your settlements at night to gain the extra intelligence, so the extra experience points that you gain from having extra intelligence. If you have Idiot Savant though, you probably don't want to do stuff at night in terms of intelligence, because you actually want less intelligence with Idiot Savant. So that's a reason why you might not want to pick Idiot Savant if you're picking the Night Person perk. But yeah, Night Person perk is very useful. Sneaking at night, you have a much greater chance of remaining undetected. Light affects how likely you are to remain undetected, so all in all, Night Person is a very good pick. And I would invest, well, you need 6 points in perception to actually pick that up, so it's quite deep into the perception column, so you could actually gain a lot of points if you don't go down that route though. Other perks within the perception column that are very useful. Refractor is actually a perk that I don't have enough points to pick up, but this is very similar to the toughness perk. If you don't want to wear much armor to increase your sneaking ability, you could use this to make your character more durable. So you may want to take a point from somewhere else if you want to pick that up. And also if you are a big fan of scopes, then you're probably going to want to pick up sniper as well. So you're going to want to basically juggle around a couple of points from somewhere else to pick that up. Many sneak builds will want to use the sniper perk. I haven't done it with this build here though. I'm not really a massive fan of scopes myself, but yeah, I think many people will want to pick up that perk. The remaining two perks within the perception column are VATS related, so arguably not so useful with most stealth builds. The awareness perk is also a perk that you'll want to pick up with most builds as well. It's incredibly useful. It doesn't have any extra ranks, and locksmith is a perk that almost everyone will want, I assume, as well. So you're almost always going to be wanting to invest at least 3 points initially and pick up the bobblehead to be able to pick up the locksmith perk. Many people will invest more highly than that. So with this character build, I actually started off with investing 5 points into perception, and you can pick up the bobblehead actually very early on with perception to gain the Night Person perk. So the last special stat is strength. Now with this character build, I actually started off with a strength of 3, and if we gain the strength bobblehead, we can take that up to 4 and gain access to the blacksmith perk. Now if you're creating a very melee orientated stealth build, you may want to invest highly into strength, but having said that, there are reasons why you might not want to in actual fact. Now each and every point you invest in strength actually gives you an extra 10 carry weight and also an extra 10% to your melee attacks. There are some melee related perks of course that you may want to pick up as well, but with stealth builds there are actually a couple of sneak or stealth related perks that are very useful in melee, which I've mentioned previously. So there's Mr. Sandman, which allows you to kill sleeping enemies, so basically it doesn't matter how much extra damage you do with extra strength attacks. If you use that on sleeping enemies, you can kill them outright straight away. And also there's the ninja perk, which at the 3rd rank actually gives you 10 times normal damage, which leaves the extra 10% extra damage that strength gives you in the dust for melee attacks. So in actual fact, you can do huge amounts of damage in melee with those two perks without investing much in strength at all. Now if you do want to do some extra damage in strength, then having access to big leagues, or well actually Iron Fist and big leagues you can get without investing any points whatsoever if you pick up the bobblehead. But the blacksmith perk you may want to pick up if you want to do extra damage with your melee type weapons. So that may be a reason why you invest special points there, but you could take your special points out and invest in somewhere else. To where I have with this character build is probably a decent idea for many stealth builds. Armourer you may want, but having said that, the more your armour weighs, the less able you are to remain undetected, so you may not actually want that perk whatsoever. You may want to forgo on that and go a different route. So yeah, you can invest your special points somewhere else. The other perks within the strength column really aren't all that useful for stealth builds. they're of minor use really. Power armor with stealth builds, probably not realistic. And the other perks aren't all that useful either. They're of small use perhaps. So yeah, investing a lot in strength with most stealth builds is probably a bad idea. So this is what my character build would look like quite deep into the game. So this is 46 levels of perks selected. You can see that I've picked mainly the damage enhancing perks here. I haven't picked extra levels of toughness or the life giver perks, for example, or the refractor perk if I invested an extra point in special there. But that's definitely a route you could go down if you wanted to make your stealth build a bit more durable. So I've really focused on basically getting extra damage, extra modding abilities for yet more damage, and yeah, that's pretty much it with this stealth build. So you can see here that I've gone for Rifleman. This is very good for most stealth builds, so this affects all different types of rifles. Shotguns as well. I think most, if not all, of the shotguns in the game are counted as rifles. I have put a few points into blacksmith, so occasionally we could use the melee weapons as well. A perk like Black Widow, I could get extra damage against men, which would come in handy, so that's yet more damage there. Almost everyone is going to want to invest in Locksmith. The last actual level of Locksmith I would probably never pick though, since I rarely break lockpicks, bobby pins. Knight person we'd want to pick up very soon. So most of the intelligence column is basically modding perks. The last hacker perk I also probably would never pick that up. Some of these stealth perks actually might not actually invest fully into as well, at least for quite a while. So the last level of sneak, I'm not sure you necessarily need that. The 4th level is very important though at level 23. Mr. Sandman, it kind of depends how much you want to use silencers on your guns, and also the initial rank actually gives you ability to kill sleeping people, so that's kind of the key one out of that perk selection. So you might not necessarily want to pick the last 2 perks there. Ninja, one of the most important perks for stealth builds. You want to max that as soon as possible, and you can do that by level 33. And there's Bloody Mess, of course, so you might want to pick that up if you want to do extra damage to enemies. That's an extra 15%, a bit more with that as well. So that's what my character might look like by about this level. You may be interested to know what order I pick certain perks in though. So in regards to what perks to pick and in what order, I'd often start out with picking the Locksmith perk. There are actually quite a few advanced locks even very early on in the game, so if you don't want to basically miss out on those or have to remember where to go to pick them up after you've found them, that's a very good early pick. So after that, there's a variety of different options. Awareness is a very good early perk. We want to get Night Person very early on to gain the extra intelligence bonus and perception, but you actually would need a perception bobblehead if I start off with a perception of 5, which I would do in this with this character build. But you can probably get that by about level 4. So probably, yeah, let's pick up the... No, let's go for the Ninja perk, get our sneak attacks a bit better. Then we'll pick up the Awareness perk. Then we'll pick up the Night Person perks. That's 4 perks. Let's get a bit better at sneak. So what's that, 5 is it, or 6? What should I go for there? If you're worried about the durability of your character, you could pick up Toughness or Life Giver with this character build, or even if you put an extra point into Perception, gain Refractor. But how many energy weapons you're up against at this early on in the game? Probably not so many. So after that, so you may want to pick up Hacker, point in that. After that, what else should we go for? Maybe a point in Gunner, increase our weapons a bit. I quite like Black Widow. You get an extra bit in dialogue as well. There are so many ways you can increase your charisma within the game now with extra aid items and clothing that it's not so important, the dialogue part arguably, but you may want to put a point in that. At level 5 you can actually get the next rank of Sneak, so that's an option. Ninja, next level 16, Night Person 25, so you can't get them for a while. Locksmith is at level 7, so I'd actually pick that straight away. So let's invest there. Hacker, level 9, not necessarily would I invest straight away in that. You can actually save up your perks to level up at a later time. You don't have to invest them straight away, and in fact that's a really good strategy to hold off and invest in them. I do that a lot with my characters, so yeah, I recommend you actually, in some circumstances, you can save quite a lot of perks up to invest later on, especially if you're not sure where you want to invest them. So roughly along those lines is what I'd recommend you invest your early perks into. Something like Scrapper, I probably wouldn't actually pick up the initial perk until level 23 when I could get both of them, maybe. Kind of depends on that one. So yeah, that's roughly where I'd invest my early points into. So that pretty much concludes this video, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have, please help me out by giving this video a like. I'm really grateful to those of you who do that. It massively helps out the channel. If you have any comments or questions or feedback about this video or future content that you'd like to see, please use the comment section. And also, if you want to see more content like this, please consider becoming a subscriber of mine as well. Check out my homepage also. There are plenty of Let's Plays on there that you may be interested in watching, and also there are quite a few guide videos for a variety of different games as well. There's bound to be something on there that you're interested in checking out. Apart from that, I have a Patreon page. If you want to help support the channel, that's something I hope that you'll check out. So basically, even the smallest of donations has a huge impact on me keeping this channel running, so I'm really grateful if you do become a patron of mine. I'd just like to thank my existing patrons, so thank you, patrons. Right, that concludes this video then, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.